Hi, my name is Megan, and this is Everything Lit. And today I'm bringing you my birthday book haul. So I did allow myself to go a little crazy for my birthday. I bought 23 books, I believe, for myself, but that's okay because it's March and we're gonna go back to 5 a month in April. It's also been a hot second since I did a haul, right? I did one in like the beginning of January, and now let's talk about all the pre-orders that have come in addition to the birthday bonanza. Of the pre-orders, I have In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. This came out just in March and it has beautiful designs on the edges. So I have the paperbacks of the rest of his books with their lovely sprayed edges. So I just figured I would complete my collection, even though I do have this in hardcover. This is a kind of a Pinocchio inspired story about a young man who lives in a forest with his android father, and he goes to the junkyard and like refurbishes robots. And one day he finds an android similar to his father and refurbishes him. And then, you know, things go down and his father gets taken to the city of electric dreams, and our main character Victor has to go and rescue him with the help of all his little robot friends. It's lovely, and because of when I read it, it made me sob. I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. I wonder if you can hear my neighbor shoveling. I bet you can. And guess what? It's the second day of spring, but we got a crap ton of snow this morning. Michigan, am I right? So continuing on with the pre-orders, and especially pre-orders I've already read, I have The Breakup Tour by Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegemund Broca. I actually already talked about this in a video, already read it, didn't love it. This is about a musician named Riley who is very Taylor Swift inspired, and she writes an entire breakup album, one song for each breakup that she has had. And her ex-husband, her most recent breakup is a divorce, is taking credit for one of the like biggest songs, and she's mad about it, and she goes to the muse for that song and asks him if she can tell everyone it's about him, and he says no, and it's very messy, the setup. But eventually he ends up going on tour with her, and it is a romance, but I don't think it's a very good one. They never talk about anything, and it's a second chance romance, which I do not like second chance romances. I have learned that now thanks to this book and a couple others. On to the pre-orders I have not read. We have Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun by Elle Cosimano. This is the 3rd in the Finlay Donovan series. I'm not going to read the back of it because I don't want to know. I have not read the 2nd yet, but this is a mystery series bordering on cozy mystery series where the first book, Finlay is talking to her agent because she is a writer at a Panera, details, and someone overhears her talking about killing someone, her main character or one of her characters, and thinks she's a hit woman and hires her to kill the woman's husband. And Finlay kind of falls into this crazy plot. Then I have Heart Song by TJ Klune. This is again the 3rd in his Wolf Song series. This series, I believe, each book follows a different brother in this wolf pack. So there are 4 books total. This is the 3rd. It's a romance. It involves wolves. I've heard good things about it. You can see on the back, first one is Wolf Song, second one is Raven Song, this one is Heart Song, and next one is Brother Song. I already have this pre-ordered because they are these beautiful hardcovers, and I love TJ Klune. And finally, for pre-orders, we have Destroy the Day by Brigid Kemmerer. A lot of these books are just series that I'm finishing out. So this is the 3rd in the Defy the Night trilogy. I think it's a trilogy, and this is the last book. And I didn't realize, oh my god, my copy is signed. How cool. Some of these pre-orders come signed. I did not expect that. But that is very exciting. This is a series where the first one deals with a deadly plague and a girl trying to find the cure that I think is kind of kept under lock and key, or only the rich have access to it. And so she is trying to save someone in her family by stealing the cure. And it's kind of like a Robin Hood story, but with medicine, which feels very timely. So this is the 3rd. I have not read any of them in the series, but I loved Brigid Kemmerer's A Curse So Dark and Lonely series. So I picked up her next series, and now that I have all three, maybe I'll actually read them. Okay, and then just a couple books that I bought in February. Full disclosure, I did go over my 5 books for February. I may have talked about it in my TBR or maybe my wrap up, but I bought 5 books in January. I ended up buying 7 in February. So one of the books I bought was The Three Dahlias by Katie Watson. This is like a cozy mystery, murder mystery. I don't think it's cozy. I think it's just a murder mystery. And this is about 3 actresses that have played the same role. This role is of a detective named Dahlia Lively. So these 3 women who have played this detective in movies and TV shows go to a convention, and at the convention there is a murder, and they feel like because they played a detective, they all have the abilities of a detective, and it sounds really fun and wacky. And I think I would like the dynamics of the 3 women, because one is an aging star, one played Dahlia in TV for a long time, so she feels very protective over the character, and then there's the new Dahlia Lively, who is a ex-child star, so she's dealing with some issues. And I just think the dynamics between those 3 are going to be really fun. I picked up How Far the Light Reaches, A Life in 10 Sea Creatures by Sabrina Imbler. This is nonfiction, and this is about sea creatures and how they live and maybe what we can learn from them. So it talks about a queer mixed race writer working in a largely white male field. Science and conservation journalist Sabrina Imbler has always been drawn to the mystery of life in the sea. So some of the topics this book covers are the mother octopus who starves herself while watching over her eggs, the Chinese sturgeon whose migration route has been decimated by pollution and dams, the bizarre predatory bobbit worm, and the common goldfish that flourishes in the wild. So I have heard good things about this nonfiction collection, and I love the ocean. That's the Pisces in me. I picked up We Got the Beat by Jenna Miller. This is her 2nd book. I read her first, called Out of Character, last year. I really loved it. It was like quintessential teen YA coming of age romance, and it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect, and I'm hoping to get the same vibes from this. This is about a girl who really wanted to be editor-in-chief of her school newspaper and then doesn't get it, and she's assigned to the volleyball beat where her nemesis is like the head captain, and so she has to go to all these volleyball games. They're kind of thrown together, and I think they end up striking up a friendship, or like their enemies vibe turns to lovers. And rounding out the books that I bought in February, we have The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. This is the 2nd book in a like connected series of romances. The first one was The Neighbor Favor, and this follows one of the sisters, Violet. She has a very public breakup because she's kind of a celebrity, and her boyfriend was definitely a celebrity. She goes to Vegas to have a crazy weekend and gets married to someone else. I think a childhood high school sweetheart, and then they decide to like stay together and make it work for the image. So it's fake dating. Marriage is real but fake, and shoot, it might be a second chance romance because they were high school boyfriend and girlfriend. Oh no, there's so many things that sound good about this, but that just made me a little trepidatious. But we'll see. I really loved the first in this series, so I'm hoping that I love this. So those were all bought pre-birthday. Let's talk about what I bought for my birthday. So first, my friend Kelly got me Once Persuaded, Twice Shy by Melody Edwards. This is a Persuasion retelling. Persuasion is by Jane Austen. And oh no, this is a second chance romance too. But basically, our main character, Anne, is comfortable focusing on her career. She doesn't really regret what happened. And then I think he comes back to her hometown and makes her reevaluate her life. I picked up Clytemnestra by Costanza Castri. This is a Greek myth retelling. Is it really a myth? We don't know, okay? She could be a historical figure. So Clytemnestra was a queen of Sparta, married to Agamemnon. Agamemnon, famously, one of the big people in the Trojan War, maybe a spoiler for the book, but sacrificed one of his daughters so that they had good weather. She also murdered a lot of people because she was in charge while he was off. I have been fascinated by the Trojan War and all the players in it since I read Helen of Troy by Margaret George. Love her. I actually read that twice. It's like a 600-page book, and I read it twice because I loved it. So I'm hoping this will give those vibes, because Agamemnon, the reason he was so gung-ho for the Trojan War is because he is Menelaus's brother. Menelaus was married to Helen before she absconded to Troy. I picked up Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. I'm not 100% sure what this is about. I know it's set in Victorian London. I know that it has like X-Men vibes because these children have special powers, and they are, I think, trying to get to a safe place where they can learn how to wield their powers. This is the first in a series. It's pretty thick. I've heard good things about it. I love historical fiction, especially historical fiction with a little twist, a little bit of magic. I picked up the new release, A Botanical Daughter by Noah Medlock. This is horror fantasy maybe, and this is about two queer men in, again, Victorian London. One is a taxidermist and one is a gardener, botanist, who works with exotic plants, and something happens and they kind of like grow a daughter. Yeah, I don't know. It does sound horror, but it also sounds like it could be lovely. I picked up The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson, and this was part of the buy one get one 50% off, so I picked it up, and then when I came home I realized this is the second book, so obviously I had to go buy the first. But that's in a different pile because I bought these the day before my birthday. This is a sequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven, which is about a bunch of witches who secretly work for the Queen. This was the other book, buy one get one 50% off, Venko by Sherry Demeline, and this is also about witches. And this is maybe about finding a lost spoon, finding other covens that hide in plain sight through this Venko trading. So they're trying to put together 7 spoons to put women in their rightful place of power. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds really good and it was on my wish list, so I picked it up. I bought Chain Gang All-Stars by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. Sorry. This is like a sci-fi future dystopia. I don't want to throw around that word because I think this is not entirely ridiculous or completely implausible. But this is where people in prison are forced to create gangs for like a reality show, and they like fight each other for this reality show. So it sounds like The Hunger Games meets reality TV, but The Hunger Games was already broadcast. So it's The Hunger Games, but make it prison. It sounds really interesting, really fantastic. I think it also has some queer characters, and this, I don't know if it's like a queer romance or like just a queer love story, which I feel like are different, right? Romance is a higher plot element, whereas a love story can happen within a larger plot. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I think of it. Anyway, I've seen lots of people talk about this and I didn't want to wait and get it from the library, so I just bought the paperback because it came out recently. And then I picked up The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This, again, the paperback just came out, and this is about a woman who is a pirate, and she's kind of retired from the pirate life. Something happens to her daughter, and she has to go back on like one last adventure and get the crew together, and it just sounds so fun. I've heard nothing but good things about any book that Chakraborty has written, so like, I'm down. So then on my actual birthday, I went to Second and Charles, the used bookstore in my town, and I had a lot of store credit. In fact, I didn't even use all my store credit, and I got 4 books. So let's talk about them. I got Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. I've heard a lot of good things about this. This is a murder mystery thriller. I guess it's not a mystery, it's a thriller. Woman witnesses her son murder someone, and then the next day she wakes up and it's the day previous. And then the next day she wakes up and it's another day previous. So she's going backwards in time and kind of discovering why he did this, how this happened, like what went wrong. And that is such an interesting concept. I love weird, interesting books. I picked up Ramon and Julieta by Alana Quintana Albertson. This is a romance. So Ramon is the heir to a like taco fast food chain, and Julieta is a celebrity chef who is trying to keep her family business from closing. And I think they're enemies and they have a lot of dealings with each other. And, you know, enemies to lovers, foodie romance. What is not to love? I bought Arthur and George by Julian Barnes. This is a Victorian set historical fiction about Arthur Conan Doyle and his friend George, who I don't know much about this, but I love historical fiction and it sounded interesting. So here we are. And it was like $6. What am I gonna do? Of course I'm gonna buy it. I picked up A Traveler at the Gates of Wisdom by John Boyne. I love John Boyne. I've been talking about him a lot recently on my channel. The Absolutist is one of my favorite books. He wrote it. I found this at the used bookstore and it seems like it's kind of a world time spanning story that follows a family, but also different people in the family, and it says their stories will intertwine and evolve over the course of 2,000 years. So it's like this epic about this family, and I trust John Boyne. I loved The Heart's Invisible Furies as well, so I'm excited to read this. And then, because it was my birthday, I went to Target and I got new sheets and just walked around and enjoyed myself. And I picked up The Shadow of Perseus in paperback by Claire Haywood. This is another Greek myth retelling. And this follows the women who surround Perseus, right? So it says his mother, Danae, his trophy, Medusa, his wife, Andromeda. As Perseus becomes obsessed with the promise of his own destiny, his heroic journey casts the shadow of violence and destruction across all three women's lives. And people are comparing it to Madeline Miller's retelling of like Circe and the Song of Achilles. So, and then finally, the day after my birthday, I drove 40 minutes to the best Barnes & Noble in the area and picked up a bunch more books. I picked up The Unsinkable Greta James by Jennifer E. Smith. This is an adult contemporary, and this is about a woman who, after her mother's death, goes on a cruise with her father. So they already had this cruise planned, and she goes in her mother's place, and they kind of heal together and grieve together on this cruise. And I think our main character also like meets a man, so there's hints of a romance. And I don't know if maybe her father also meets someone. I picked up The Boyfriend Subscription by Stephen Salvatore. This is a Pretty Woman retelling, but make it gay. So we have a man who has lost his marriage and his beloved retail business. And Cole is a successful entrepreneur whose app allows consumers and sex workers to form real connections. Cole, the designer of this sex work app, needs a boyfriend for something, and so he hires the guy who's down on his luck. And I am very interested to see how this compares to Pretty Woman, because I just think people don't do it right. And that's the snob in me, but people they don't understand what people love about Pretty Woman. Or I guess I should just say they don't understand what I love about Pretty Woman, and therefore most retellings don't work for me. But I've got hope. I picked up a sequel. So this is Stardust in Their Veins by Laura Sebastian. This is the sequel to Castles in Their Bones, which I have not read, but I have it in paperback. So I picked this up in paperback because it just came out. And this is about three princesses who are like trained to seduce other kings or kings to get their kingdoms so that they can all be united, I think. I don't know. It's got princesses, it's got spies, it's fantasy, it's YA. I picked up Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson because I accidentally bought the sequel, and instead of returning the sequel, I was like, let me buy another book. This is about witches, and this coven is created to serve the Queen. So Queen Elizabeth I, which is like Elizabethan Queen Elizabeth, so she established this royal coven, and now we're in the current day, I believe. And these women they were friends and that when they were younger, and then now I think they are reuniting. I'm not 100% sure the plot of this, but I'm thinking that they have to reunite because there is some sort of threat to the queen, the crown, something like that. I picked up Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is one of the books that I've been so excited to get in paperback because I've heard nothing but good things about this. It's a fairy tale. It's inspired by The Princess Bride. And basically, Tress thought that this boy she grew up with went off to live a happy life. She finds out that he's actually gone missing. His family doesn't know where he is. So she goes on a journey to tell him, I think, to tell him she loves him and to save him from whatever he's gotten into. I've heard nothing but good things about this. I've heard it's cozy. I've heard it's whimsical. I've heard it's fairy tale. It's been compared to Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I cannot wait. I have Blood Debts by Terry J. Benton Walker. This is YA fantasy, and it's about two twins. Obviously, it's about twins, and they are heirs to some magic, and they find out their mother is cursed, and they kind of don't get along, and then they have to team up to protect their family. Meanwhile, like, the backdrop is that there was this massacre, a magical massacre in New Orleans like 30 years ago, and now like they're trying to prevent that happening again. I really just bought this off of the vibes. I've been keeping an eye on it. The hardcover cover is stunning. I kind of wish they hadn't changed it, but it's fine. I get it. The second book, now they'll match. My copies will, at least. Feel sorry for the people who bought it in hardcover with the OG cover, because now it's not going to match, and that's annoying. I picked up Birnam Wood by Eleanor Catton, and this author, I read her big book, The Luminaries, before I started my channel, and I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. And this is like an eco-philosophical mystery thriller. So there's this abandoned farm, and I think multiple people are fighting over it. So an American billionaire wants to build some sort of end times bunker, and this guerrilla gardening collective wants to like repopulate this farm as healthy plants to like bring life back to the area. I don't know beyond the large framework what this is about, but these two entities, this billionaire and this guerrilla gardening group, are like fighting over this one area because a landslide has closed off the farm. What it says on the back is Shakespearean in its drama, Austenian in its wit, and kaleidoscopic in its perspectives and insights. That sounds really good, and that's why I bought it. I did another buy one get one 50% off. I don't remember what the other book was, but I got Arthur and Teddy Are Coming Out by Ryan Love. This is about a grandfather, Arthur, and he decides to come out at 79 years old. And it kind of drops a bombshell in their family order. And his 21-year-old grandson, Teddy, has the same secret, but he has not come out yet. And he doesn't feel ready now that after the shockwaves of his grandpa coming out. So this just sounds cozy and happy and cute. I hope that it is heartwarming rather than I feel like something like this could be like a devastating look into families and blah, blah, blah. But I think this is just going to be like sweet and heartwarming about a family coming to terms with big news. I picked up The Excitements by CJ Ray. This is probably one of the books I am most excited to pick up. Like, I want to pick this up right now. And that's because this is a book that I just was wandering around and found. I haven't been like eyeing it for months and months and months. So it's really the shiniest of them all. So this is about two older women who are World War II veterans, and they are in their late 90s, and they are in huge demand going to commemorative events, history festivals, and they are still very much gung-ho. They want the adventure and the excitement. They go with their great nephew Archie to this Paris convention, and some more information starts coming out about their role in World War II and maybe a crime. It seems like a mix of historical fiction and cozy mystery, and I'm just fascinated with it. All right, and then I picked up Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. This is a new release. It was on one of my most anticipated lists. Bino, you're so loud. And this is about a woman whose wedding is stopped because she pays a man to do that. Her fiance has cheated, and instead of breaking up the family, or I don't know, it's easier for her to pay someone to object at her wedding and break up the marriage. And she decides his job sounds really cool, and they maybe become partners in breaking up marriages, but she starts becoming a objector or an objector at weddings, and that's her job. And I think that these two cynics start falling in love because it's a romance, and it feels a bit 27 Dresses, but like they're both cynical, but they both go to a lot of weddings. Like the vibes are vibing, you know? Sorry, you were gonna knock over more books. So that is my birthday book haul. I did buy very many books, but I am happy with those purchases. And I think, like, a little lesson at the end of the video, I have a lot of library books out and I'm really feeling pressure to get to them all before I have to return them. And I did return some unread, which was fine. I just decided I don't want to read these right now. I'll just return them. But I have a stack of like 10 books and they're all due at the latest. Like they're staggered when they're due, but it's a lot of pressure. And when I buy the book myself, that timeline for when I have to read it by is a lot longer. I can read it whenever I feel like it, rather than these library books where I have to read it right now. So I'm kind of discovering that I don't like having a ton of library books out at once. That was my book haul. Let me know if any of these books sound interesting to you. Which one should I prioritize? What should I read first? Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, you could click that like button. You could subscribe, but really, you can do whatever you want, and I'll see you next time.